Hey everybody, welcome back. This video is going to be reviewing assignment 10. All right, so this one is looking at part 2 of the Frederick Douglass lessons, and this one looked at a longer version of his writings, but I think it really captures a lot of like the beauty of Frederick Douglass's language, how eloquent he was as a writer, how powerful he was as a writer, and it got you to look at his work and how he was an abolitionist and became so powerful. Um, so the assignment was kind of different. You just had to look for 3 quotes and see how an abolitionist could possibly use that. Essentially, what I was asking for was like an abolitionist is someone who's trying to get rid of slavery or abolish slavery. Which of these quotes from Frederick Douglass can an abolitionist use to kind of make their case of why slavery is so bad? So we have like awesome quotes that we picked up. So I wanted to kind of show you what some of your classmates have done, and just to show you those 3 quotes, and then share a couple answers from the debrief questions. So let's share the screen, and let's start here. So Dennis, Emma, and Kishalani had this quote, the first one here. It's the quote, "The law gives the master absolute power over the slave. He may work him, flog him, hire him out, sell him, and in certain contingencies kill him with perfect impunity," or without punishment. These folks, Dennis, Emma, Kishalani, I know some of you, there may be more, but they talked about this, the sense of this quote really shows the lack of power slaves have, and especially when it comes to law. Like the law, basically, in the South, made slaves have no power and proved that they have no power. And so they said that quote really captures this lack of power amongst the enslaved population. Melly captured, I think there's a couple others, but captured this one too, right here, saying, quote, "The slave is a human being divested or removed of all rights, reduced to the level of a brute," which is exactly what you imagine, just this like barbaric human. A mere chattel or like possession in the eye of a law, placed beyond the cycle of human brotherhood, cut off from his kind. Like how powerful of a quote that is. But Melly, I think, captured why that quote's so powerful. Melly said that essentially, like Southerners, it not only shows that slaves had no power, or enslaved population had no power, but that Southerners didn't even see enslaved Africans or enslaved African Americans as humans, that they were just not even on the same playing field as what Southerners thought. And so Melly shows that that's a powerful message as to why slavery is so bad. And Frederick Douglass is able to capture that in his quote, like in his language that he uses. It's crazy. This quote here was a very, very popular one that I saw a lot of people picking, but it was, quote, in law, a slave has no wife, no children, no country, and no home. He can own nothing, possess nothing, acquire nothing, but what must belong to another. To eat the fruit of his own toil, to clothe his person with the work of his own hands is considered stealing. Dennis, Karina, Emma, Kishalani, Melly all picked this quote, just as a few folks that I saw, that really show how slaves have nothing. But I want to focus on this last part. To eat the fruit of his own toil, to clothe his person with the work of his own hands is considered stealing. I think Dennis started to get at it, but this idea, like that quote is so powerful because slaves were essentially working the fields and making all of those, like all the food, and they couldn't eat the only thing that they were working for. If they were picking cotton, they couldn't wear the clothes that the cotton would be used for. That would be considered stealing. So slaves were part of this whole system and couldn't actually get anything from it. They couldn't get the food that their plantations grew. They couldn't get the clothes that their cotton produced. And if they did, they could be killed or stealing. They could have things just like if they were escaped, they could have things physically cut off from their body or beaten. But that's just like crazy. And Frederick Douglass is able to capture that, which is so incredibly powerful. Let's go back for the last couple sections. But The last quote that popped up a lot was this one. To rebuke what he is pleased to term insolence, he relies on the whip. To bind down the spirit of the slave, to imbrute and destroy his manhood, he relies on the whip, the chain, the gag, the thumbscrew, the pillory, the bow knife, the pistol, and the bloodhound. Emma, Karina, and Kishalani found this one, but this talks about the power of the slave owner, and that the slave owner relies on this tool, the whip, to enforce the slave owner's power. The slave owner relies on the whip to make slaves not, quote unquote, not human, to make them, quote unquote, brutish barbarians. That slave owners use this tool to, in fact, to create this psychological pain in the slaves. And Frederick Douglass says it so powerfully about how these tools are used against the slave population. Like that's just powerful, and I'm glad people saw that one. To now go back to the debrief question, which was like the main one. Frederick Douglass, what did you do about slavery? And then the big one, which was the impact Frederick Douglass had. So Frederick Douglass about slavery, it's kind of like he exposed a lot of the evils of it, but not only that, he gave voice to the enslaved population, just like you saw in Assignment 9. He gave hope to the enslaved population because he was able to learn how to read or write, escape, tell his story, and send that message that it can be achieved for slaves to escape. And then also he became this like body of evidence. But the impact, I think I kind of hinted at someone's answer, but part B of the debrief question is, what impact did Frederick Douglass have on the abolition movement? Or in other words, why is he and his work so important? Karina, what's up, Karina? She said, quote, he had a large impact on the community because he inspired the abolition movement and spread his story and word around so that others were able to speak up for those whose rights were stripped from them. Exactly. He inspired others to do something by, like, what excuse can a free white person have after seeing Frederick Douglass go, I escaped slavery, I learned how to read or write, I'm doing all of this, what are you doing? He was able to inspire people to do that. Kishalani goes, quote, Frederick Douglass did not just run away, making it possible to outsmart the higher power who had him under his shoulder. Awesome, like he was able to outwit slave owners, but revealing a voice that would impact all those enslaved and those who were. And that what they put through it pure cruelty and dehumanizing to a slave, showing slaves that they have a voice that has to be heard, a soul that has life, and a being with all rights. Like Kishalani, you're adopting Frederick Douglass's language. It's awesome. Frederick Douglass exactly did that. He shows, I love your line, a soul that has life, saying that slaves have a soul, they're human. Frederick Douglass was able to embody that, and his language was able to show the emotion of these people. And then Melly says, his work is more important because he is living evidence of what happened in the South. Like that's another cool, like another powerful thing is that Frederick Douglass is like a primary source that experienced all of these evils and is able to speak for them and represent that experience. And then, you know, what's better than a firsthand experience in these things? So awesome job capturing the power and brilliance of Frederick Douglass. Great work for assignment 9 and 10. Keep it going. I hope we're staying safe. I hope we're inspired. I hope we're washing hands, wearing masks, and all that jazz. Take care, everybody.